Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into Lost Girls and Love Hotels, a 2020 film directed by William Olson and based on the novel by Catherine Hanrahan. This movie tells the story of Margaret, a troubled English teacher living in Tokyo, as she spirals into self-destruction while trying to escape the ghosts of her past. It's a gripping, raw, and ultimately tragic tale about loneliness, identity, and self-destruction. So, grab a seat, because this film's deep themes and emotional twists are going to leave you reflecting long after the credits roll. As always, we're going to break down the plot in full detail, dig into the characters, and explore the deeper themes the film presents. There are some intense moments and heavy topics, so spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie yet. Make sure to watch it first before we dive in. Alright, let's get started. The movie opens with Margaret, a young woman from the West who is living in Tokyo and working as an English teacher at a language school. Right away, we can sense that she's in a state of emotional turmoil. The city's neon lights are both mesmerizing and overwhelming, and Margaret's sense of isolation is palpable. She's distant, often cold, and seems to be using the bustling city as a way to disappear, to lose herself in its chaos. Her job as an English teacher is a lifeline of sorts, but it also serves as a symbol of how she's unable to truly connect with anyone, including her students. Margaret's emotional walls are high, and even though she's surrounded by people, she's clearly alone. The film does an excellent job of establishing her inner conflict. She's running away from something, but what exactly is it? Margaret spends much of her time in love hotels, anonymous spaces where people go for fleeting encounters, typically for sex. It's here that she meets a man named Kazu, played by Takehiro Hira, who becomes a significant part of her story. These hotel visits symbolize Margaret's attempt to numb herself, to escape her emotions without having to deal with the pain or face the consequences. The relationship with Kazu is complex, it's passionate but also destructive. Margaret and Kazu's relationship is both passionate and painful. The physical connection is undeniable, but it's clear that neither of them is truly able to heal through it. Kazu is emotionally distant, just like Margaret, but their interactions are driven by an intense attraction to each other. This relationship represents Margaret's desperate attempt to feel something, anything in a world that feels cold and numb to her. As Margaret becomes more enmeshed in this destructive cycle, her behavior spirals. She drinks heavily, engages in one-night stands with strangers, and continues to use Kazu as a form of temporary escape. At this point in the film, we start to see her emotional vulnerability underneath the layers of detachment. She's using her body to try and forget, to avoid confronting the deeper trauma that haunts her. It's almost like she's punishing herself, retreating into a shell to avoid facing the real reason behind her pain. Throughout the film, we're also given glimpses of Margaret's past, particularly her relationship with her mother. There's a deep sense of unresolved pain from her childhood, and her mother's presence looms large over her. It's clear that Margaret has never fully processed the trauma of her upbringing, and as a result, she's stuck in this cycle of self-destruction. Her time in Tokyo, surrounded by strangers and fleeting pleasures, is a way of avoiding the real emotional work she needs to do. Despite her inner turmoil, there are moments when Margaret starts to open up and let her guard down. Her relationship with Kazu becomes more complicated as they begin to reveal more of themselves to each other. Kazu's own demons begin to surface, and the two characters start to form a more emotional connection. This shift brings a glimmer of hope for Margaret. Perhaps she can begin to heal, but it's clear that it's not going to be easy. Margaret also develops a more genuine connection with a friend named Liana, played by Emmanuel Kriki, a fellow expatriate in Tokyo. Liana's warmth and empathy stand in stark contrast to Margaret's coldness, and Liana becomes a sounding board for Margaret, offering her a glimpse of a life that doesn't involve running from pain. Through Liana, Margaret is reminded that it's possible to connect with others without losing yourself in the process. The most poignant moment in the film occurs when Margaret finally opens up about her past to Kazu. She reveals that her mother, who had been a constant source of emotional pain, passed away, and this loss is something she never truly dealt with. Margaret's grief has been buried for years, and her reckless behavior has been a way of avoiding the depths of that sorrow. This revelation changes the dynamic between Margaret and Kazu, and it's in this moment that she begins to confront the emotional scars that have shaped her. As we reach the final act of the movie, Margaret's emotional journey comes to a head. She must decide whether she's ready to face her grief and move forward or if she will continue running from it. Unfortunately, the pressure of her unresolved trauma and her fear of intimacy pull her back into old habits. Margaret's self-destructive behavior reaches its peak, and she pushes away the people who care about her, including Kazu and Liana. The film ends on a somber note. Margaret's choices, though understandable given her emotional state, lead to a tragic conclusion. Her attempt to avoid the pain she carries inside ultimately isolates her further. The closing moments are heartbreaking, as we see the full weight of Margaret's inability to truly connect with herself and others. While there's a sense of inevitability about the ending, it's also a reminder of the complexity of healing and the consequences of avoiding the emotional work required for growth. Lost Girls and Love Hotels is an emotionally intense film that explores themes of trauma, loneliness, and the struggle for self-identity. Margaret's journey is a heartbreaking one, and the film doesn't shy away from showing how deep-rooted pain can lead to self-destruction if left unchecked. The movie asks important questions about what it means to truly heal and whether it's possible to move forward when the past continues to haunt us. The film also delves into the ways in which people cope with pain, whether through fleeting connections, escapism, or by retreating into self-isolation. Margaret's inability to confront her grief, her relationship with her mother, and her fear of real emotional intimacy all contribute to the tragic trajectory of her life. Ultimately, Lost Girls and Love Hotels is a reminder of the complexity of mental health and the long, difficult road to self-acceptance and healing. It's not a simple story of redemption, but rather a nuanced and raw portrayal of a young woman who is trying, in her own way, to survive in a world that feels overwhelming. So, what did you think of Lost Girls and Love Hotels? Did Margaret's journey resonate with you? What did you think about the ending? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite films. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.